the more I explore and develop my ideas, the more astonished I am at the integrity of the theology that I am using. I really think I can explain everything using the rules of the Abrahamic God. My previous stream with Vincent Bruno, which I'm quite proud of, by the way. My most recent stream with Vincent Bruno has revealed that I can explain everything that has happened in history I can put it down, all the bad stuff, to disobedience to God's laws and success to obedience to God's laws. It's pretty much it's coherent and not falsifiable, in fact. And what Vincent was saying, because we were kind of congratulating each other on, I was saying I enjoy my conversations with him because out of all the people that I talked to, he actually understood how rules worked. Because my most satisfying theological discussions have been with him. So in a way, it's like talking to another lawyer who understands legal reasoning, in fact. And he said he's like this because he had to understand the rule system of Jehovah's Witnesses, and so basically, in all religions, you have a narrative that there's God who is all these things and did all those things, explaining how we are to look at the world. It doesn't have to be necessarily true. It just has to be, accepted, and if enough people accept it, it will become mainstream. And when it becomes mainstream, people will be forced to look at the world through this lens, because you would have been taught this by your parents, and it would be confirmed by your school about God and the Bible stories and that kind of stuff. And one of the things I mentioned to him was that Western IQ has dropped 14 points. Well, I know I didn't actually say that, but I said that it had dropped, and it had dropped catastrophically by as much as 14 points. Because people are obviously getting stupider because of their degenerate patterns of sexual reproduction. And so the solution to that is obvious. In theory. And my problem is people not doing what is expected of them because they don't know who they are, and therefore they don't know what is expected of them. Some of you all know I have a problem with Rob Dufour. I have a problem with him because he's supposed to want what I want, but he's too afraid to ask for it. He's too afraid to ask for it because, well, he's a timorous sort of man. I mean, some might, okay, I'll be fair and say, well, not every man becomes a Muslim, and not every man becomes a Muslim organizer. But I'm assuming, if you're going to become a Muslim and you see something needs to be organized and you don't see anyone doing it, but you see it's necessary to do it, then you would put yourself forward to do it. And this indeed is what Rob Dufour has done. And I can't fault him about that. And I suppose I will have to keep trying to explain to you why I have such a problem with Rob. And some will say that it's because he won't do what I want. Of course, it's true that it's a source of irritation to me that he won't do what I want. And it's not that everybody has to do what I want, but I'm saying logically, if you want Islam to go mainstream, as you must be if you're a white Muslim convert who is complaining about there not being enough safe spaces for white Muslim converts because the pie of Islam in the West, so to speak, is mostly dominated by brown Muslim immigrants from Muslim countries. And I know that their arrival has caused indigenous American Muslims concern and annoyance by their behaviour, by their assumption that they don't exist. And of course, well, I know black people have complained about it, saying, well, we've been Muslim for generations, meaning, since the time of, Nation of Islam and Malcolm X and that sort of thing. And so it is annoying to be brushed aside and treated as if you don't exist because they really don't think you exist or that you don't matter. But their mindset would be that, well, you can't be practicing Islam properly because you don't live in a Muslim country. You're living in America. We can't expect you to to practice Islam properly because you would be living in a culture of, well, flower power, free love, gay marriage, sex and drugs and rock and roll, the pill, no fault divorce, and all these terrible things. And because of those reasons, of transgenderism, because of all these reasons, we can't expect you to be practicing Islam in any way that we would consider acceptable because you have been marinating, your people have been marinating in the moral sewage of feminism for much longer than anyone else. And for this reason, we don't think that you're capable of, well, you may practice what you think is Islam, but, well, it's not our kind of Islam, and we don't think that your kind of Islam is, well, what has your kind of Islam done? You don't have you don't have a Muslim tradition. Yes, you may have a few white converts who say stuff and are allowed to say stuff on mainstream media, but, well, we really know what to think of you lot. And, of course, that is insulting and a little demoralizing, I imagine. But let's examine the truth of it. I think it's true that you don't have an Islamic tradition, then you can't really claim to be on the same level as people whose ancestors have been Muslim, who live in a Muslim country. So what I'm talking about is how white Muslims can compete against the established tradition of brown Muslim immigrants. It would be, quite hard to assert any intellectual authority because you've been at it for, a shorter length of time. And obviously, if your country became governed by Sharia, then, at least you could hold your head up high and then say, well, we've done it, we've got our own Sharia, and, don't you mess with us and think you're better than us because we've got our Sharia. We're not just sort of Muslims living, as foreigners in our own country with no Islamic tradition that anybody has heard of. Well, that would be my reaction as a white Muslim convert. I would have to accept the truth of these statements that, well, we don't see why we should respect the way you practice Islam because you haven't been at it for very long, and all around you is moral sewage of transgenderism and gay marriage and Roe versus Wade and abortion on demand and no-fault divorce and transgender school children, and that you are helpless to protest against. Why should we? Well, obviously they should be polite, but something has gone wrong. So the only way you can honestly say, you've done that, you're on the same level as when you have Sharia. And since white Muslim converts are shy of saying that and are more focused on asking for safe spaces for white Muslim converts, then it's not exactly giving a good impression of, becoming white and Muslim. Sorry, being white and becoming Muslim. Because you're instantly giving the impression that, you are almost an endangered species needing your own sanctuary. So nobody's going to want to do that. Okay, you're not, this is not the kind of, it's a reverse dawah, isn't it? Become us and become low status foreigners in your own country. So the only way to address this perception is to make Islam go mainstream, and the message I hear from Rob is that he's not going to be talking about secular Koranism because it's too radical. He's not going to make arguments for it, and we have in fact spoken about it before, and he repeated the same thing. It's like, well, I can't really say anything much. I have to be careful. I have to watch what I say, and so he's not going to change his position about being careful about what he's going to say, and yes, I will. I'll be talking about his timorousness and timidity and cowardice and And this will lead me to the question of masculinity in the West. So Rob doesn't understand really how repellent it is. Okay, I know I'm a woman, but this is something that just makes me cringe. At the very idea of asking for a safe space. And I know he said, "Oh, I didn't say safe space," but it's like it's the same thing. You can dress it up in any way you like, but really, Islam for Europeans is about asking for a safe space, and I don't know from who. Who are you going to ask it from? Well, they're not enough white Muslims to form mosques, so it'd be some kind of low grade, substitute. It's not really a mosque. It's I don't know, function room, or I don't even know what he's asking for. And his dullness. I got Muslim, but it's just repulsive how he makes it seem, that it's this sort of pathetic little group wanting a safe space when he should be presenting it as something that solves and avoids problems. I know, not being Muslim, it's kind of not really, my place to complain, but boy, oh boy, is it cringeworthy. And nobody else seems to see it. And I'm trying to see things from his point of view. It's like, oh, but, we have nowhere to go. Where else can we go? We don't want to go to these mosques who are going to be brown with a different culture, and we don't want their culture, and anyway it keeps changing, and it's not about culture. It's like, forget all the culture, because the culture will be wrong. It's not your culture, it's their culture. But what you want, the most important thing about Islam is the book. And the most important thing about the book is the rules. So you use the rules to get your way, to form arguments. And this was what Vincent has been doing. He's constructing a system of rules. Yeah, I know he hasn't finished it yet. He's going to construct a system of rules that will result in, he hopes, sexual reproduction of the next generation that isn't traditional marriage. That's his aim. So gay people like him can have children without having to be stuck with a woman all their lives. So so he can be gay and have fun, and a woman can have more than one sexual partner, and somehow he thinks it's going to work. I don't think it's going to work for all the obvious reasons about, well, it's going to undermine your ability to be a good parent to your child if you're going to be having loads of different sex partners, whether they are of the same sex or the same or the opposite sex. And Vincent doesn't realize it yet, but he thinks he can construct a rule system that will enable this to happen. So fair enough, he can try and do that. But this is what I would have thought Muslims with Muslims in a Western country would want to do. They would want to use the rules in the Quran to help them win arguments, such as the argument for a one-party state. So we've already got two things going for the Americans. Washington didn't approve of political parties. Washington has read the Quran because he says things like, we must with caution indulge a supposition that morality can be maintained without religion. And then there was some mention of international relations about, how did it go? That morality and good sense dictates. I can never remember, but I'll look it up. So you would have thought, if you're white, you're American, you're Muslim, and you're a minority, then obviously you have to work towards making it mainstream, right? You have a choice. This is what you want. And also, if you want to become Muslim and you don't want to ask for Sharia, then, well, what's the point? I've already, drawn this analogy. What you're doing is the equivalent of buying a car without an engine and not doing anything about it. So you're warned that buying a car without an engine means it won't go forward. It won't move anywhere. But you still buy it, and then you complain. So what about the low status position of American Muslims, both black and white? Well, if it's a problem being low status, then you would raise your status, right? You would make arguments and say, well, how about adopting Islam? Because Christianity is no longer working, and you can make the case. It's so easy. But they don't want to do it because it's controversial. It's controversial. It might upset people and fan the flames of Islamophobia, and they don't want to do that. They're just being like the Jews. It's like there's so many things wrong, and so much of their religion already says these things are wrong, but they're not going to say it because they don't want to provoke more anti-Semitism. And I'm afraid sometimes you just have to bite the bullet, because if you don't bite the bullet, then everything is wasted, and then you'll end up being called stupid and cowardly by posterity. So there you go. I found it again. The quote from George Washington. Morality enjoin. Religion and morality enjoin good faith to all nations. So he said that in his speech. What religion does he mean? He doesn't mean Christianity, because the New Testament is completely silent on international relations, and understandably so, because, well, Jesus never got anywhere. He just got himself executed. So whatever he said, that was supposedly clever was just to get out of trouble with the Roman authorities. So there has been a suggestion that the New Testament was cooked up by the Roman propaganda department, and probably the story of Jesus saying, "Render unto Caesar what is Caesar's, and what is God to God," was, the advice of the Roman propaganda department. If Jesus said that, the one who would turn the other cheek to be slapped, I mean, what the fuck is that? It's just so repellently. Don't do it anyway, do they? So I would have thought Muslims of all races and nations, wherever they live, able to make these arguments and point out the idolatry and blasphemy of Christianity and easily win these arguments. They're easily won. But they're scared, right? They're scared. Rob DeFore is scared. They don't want to antagonize their Christian overlords, these people who don't believe in it anyway, who ceased to believe in it centuries ago, or who dare to call themselves Catholic and want partial birth abortion, people like that. So these white converts are too afraid to challenge these people. So, well, why even convert to Islam? If you convert to Islam, there is the religious obligation of jihad. It's there. So if you don't do it, then you're going to be punished, as you would expect. So maybe there's something inherently feeble about the character of people who come from a Christian tradition. They just don't get it. They think, oh, if we believe that God is one, then we're going to get to heaven. And that's enough, and we'll just shut up about everything else. Like, well, chapter 18, verse 4, which is a command. Admonish those who claim that God has begotten the Son. But if you're too scared, well, I think it means you don't really believe. If you don't dare to offend these Christians, and I'm afraid admonish means scold, and scold would be, well, scolding somebody is offensive, and I think the Quran means Muslims to be offensive, because if they're not offensive, these idolaters and blasphemers won't get it, will they? They'll think they're right. If you show them respect, they'll think you respect their idolatry and blasphemy. And if you respect their idolatry and blasphemy, then why the hell should they change their religion? So the problem with Rob is, well, he hasn't changed his tune, It's like, oh, I can't say anything much, so I won't. And I won't be talking about your secular Koranism because it's too controversial. And all I'm going to concentrate on is getting safe spaces for white Muslim converts. And that's all I care about. Which is repellent and cowardly and contemptible. And I can't stop saying it because this is what I feel. So I guess it's not going to happen. If you're going to let Islam for Europeans be represented by Rob, you won't get any takers. Come and join us. Come and become a white Muslim convert and just be begging for a safe space from brown Muslims. Yeah. That's so that's so attractive, isn't it? And the pity of it is that, so many arguments can be made, but Rob is too scared. Too scared. So, too scared to ask for what is needed. What culture can there be? What culture can there be for frightened white Muslim converts? There's no culture worth having. It would be putting the cart before the horse. The culture's rotten, so you change the rules. If you're too scared to ask for the rules to be changed, then, well, I'm afraid you don't deserve to have the rules changed. But everywhere I see, the obvious thing is not being done because people are scared. Men are women, and women are men. And all these excuses, these pathetic, contemptible, shitty excuses. I can't say anything much in case, what's going to happen if you ask for what you need? John's here.
How you doing, Claire? What's up?
The usual thing.
It seems like we got what was he called before he changed his name to Pigger? What was his name? Yeah, Aaron.
Aaron Amihud. I think you did speak to him a few times. Yeah.
Yeah. So what crawled up his crawl, as they say?
He doesn't like secular Koranism, and he can't think of anything better, and he doesn't like Muslims.
Right, he doesn't like Muslims. Well, I mean, isn't he like some liberal Jew? So why does he care?
Well, I don't know. I mean, you see, this is the thing. You never really know why he's saying this. So on the one hand, he said, like Sam Samuels, that it's a good thing that anti-Semitism is rising, so the Jews will get frightened and go to Israel, because that was how what I remember him to be saying when I first met him. So that was what he wanted, and and now he's kind of pretending to be a goy,
Right, he's a goy lover.
Pig avatar.
Well, I mean, he's a his comment right there is one of the reasons why I'm so glad that I gave up the whole being on that side of the aisle, if you want to call it that. It's like, it's like you're damned if you do, damned if you don't. When you come to that, it's like fake Jew. Well, wouldn't if someone was to be called a fake Jew, wouldn't it be you, Aaron? Aren't you a fake Jew? That's my question.
I suppose his mother's Jewish, so I mean, I think people
But
have an idea of what a Jew
he
is.
has a chazer for an icon. He has a pig
Hmm.
for an icon. What does that mean?
Yeah, I don't know. I guess he's denying his Jewish identity, after affirming it. So he's not. I mean, okay, Charles Moskowitz does the same thing. He says, "Oh, I called myself Charles Morse, but now I'm going to be Jewish." And then he just says all these things, and I thought, but you're not Jewish. You're just sort of, you're just you talk like a goy, but you're saying you're Jewish, and it's so obvious you're not Orthodox, and you don't really. Okay, I understand that you can shop around for any opinion you like. So for any opinion you can just find a rabbi who will agree with you, right? You can always find one. That's always been the
Yeah, you
way.
can go rabbi shopping. They call it rabbi shopping.
Yeah,
It's like oh yeah, rabbi says I can just say a bracha on a piece of pork chops and it's kosher. Oh, must be true. I must be a real Jew. It's like Pinocchio knows. I want to be a real boy. I want to be a real Jew. You know?
but I think everybody's in trouble with that because the Muslims also don't have a final authority. I think that the Catholics in a way are the most have the position, and except that the Pope ain't going to be saying anything controversial because he's gone over to the liberals. But it used to be in the olden days that he would be the final authority on matters of doctrine, and nobody could say, "Oh, you're wrong, Pope," because he's infallible, kind of thing, right?
Yeah, yeah, I guess so. Yeah, yeah. So
But
Claire,
he's not.
how?
He's not going to. Sorry.
Oh, go ahead. Finish your statement.
No, no. I really said what I want to say.
Well, I
What
was
you
just,
just.
I really, to be honest with you, I really don't want to talk about Aaron. To be honest with you, I could flush him down the toilet. Um, so how was your day after I stopped talking to you when I was at the doctor's? How did everything go?
Oh, fine. I streamed with Vincent. That was quite fun. I thought a few, interesting points came up, and but yeah, I kind of sort of go back to people not really doing what they're supposed to be doing, and I suppose. Well, it is a problem if there is actually literally nobody at all supposed to be doing what they're doing. And going back to Jews, I don't necessarily want to talk about Aaron, but I'm saying, if every question you ask is answered with maybe, then you don't have a functioning system. That's kind of what I'm trying to say. Where there is no moral clarity about anything. It's like, oh, believe
Yeah,
what you like, but just dress like a Jew or dress like a Muslim. Who cares what you really believe? Just don't break the law. You know.
right. Sort of like how we treated the LGBT back in the 50s, right? Just you dressed in your suit, you went to work, and what you did at your own home, that's kind of like that it was fair game in your house. Your own home,
Yeah.
you can sort of put your feet up on the table if you wanted. But when you're in the office, you don't unbelt your pants and put your feet up on the table because that's kind of ghetto. But if you wanted to do it at home, sure, right? That's you have your public life, you have your private life, and you distinguish between the two. Now people just are just trash no matter where they go, right? I mean, they go to Walmart in their pajamas with their ass hanging out
Mm.
because quite frankly, they don't care, right? So now they're casual Friday is now casual 365 days, and it's gotten to the point where it's what's the word, Claire? I'm looking for. It's you know, it's that.
Um,
That's what we're dealing with. Does that
oh,
make sense? What I'm saying?
I think so. I think so. So and this adds to mental illness. I think, because it's we just need sometimes to dress up for something and know how to dress up and well, you can't really get a proper answer to any question that you want to ask now. Is what I'm saying, and I mean the problem also extends to Jews because they have no formal head. that whose authority they accept. While Catholics at least think, well, it's supposed to be the Pope, even if we don't really listen to him, but nominally it's supposed to be the Pope. But I don't think amongst Jews, unless they had unless they restored the Sanhedrin, no, I don't. There will be no final authority about any question on Judaism. Is I guess what I'm trying to say. And so no question can be answered conclusively.
Well, sorry there. I don't think they can answer the question no matter how hard they try, Claire. You know, it's just he's talking about it's too high Q for you. You know what? You want to talk about scraping the bottom of the barrel. I think it's too high for you. I think it's projection, right? I think it's just he can't answer the questions because he has no answers. So let Aaron. You want to answer the question or not? Or are you just going to talk about? Are you just going to be fallacious in the comment section?
I think he has a few mental health issues. So but I just find a lot of people can't make their mind about anything. Okay, an example would be, somebody'd say, oh, I believe God exists. And I thought, oh, that's interesting. And then, a while later, you see in their Facebook comments, they're posting as if they were atheists. And you think, oh, but what did you mean when you said this thing? And I asked you if you really meant it, and you said yes. And now you're posting like an atheist again. And I guess the answer was, oh, it was just a moment. It was just a moment when I thought I believed in God, and then I changed my mind again. No. And this is how most people operate.
Well, it seems to me, Claire, doesn't that just sound like emotions? It's just
Yeah,
whatever moment they're in, they make the decision then, and then when the moment leaves them, basically that's it. It's. I mean, it sounds like Aaron would just make a decision whether or not he's constipated for the day. It doesn't seem like he has really willpower that goes beyond his physical limitations. Let's call it that. He can't go
well,
beyond his capability. It's sad. Well, is that not the average person though, Claire? Wouldn't you say he's just an average person, like run of the mill? This is what we're up against, right? I mean, isn't this the average Joe?
well, I don't know. I think Aaron is mentally ill, but then I see so much mental illness everywhere now because nobody is certain about anything, and I think it's a government that's causing it because it's not certain about anything, and it just infects everything. And so people don't want to plan, they don't want to go anywhere. It's this kind of idea really that they
Actually, it's at least I'm forging an identity for myself. At least I'm trying to find answers. You're still living like you're in a dreamland, Aaron. You live like a 5-year-old. People who are adults, they try to make decisions that are the best. They try to work through it. So to me, that gives me credit that I'm able to, problem solve. Says the Jew one day, Mr. Muslim the next. I mean, you can call me whatever you want. I really don't care about the labels, but at least I'm trying to figure out the answers, and Claire's trying to figure out the answers. I think you're doing a pretty good job, Claire, at what you're doing.
Oh, thank you, John. But I think you're prepared to, or keep moving because you haven't found the thing, or at least you you are honest enough with yourself to say, well, this is not the thing. Maybe there is something better, and give it a go. Um, and I think a lot of it is down to a correct understanding of whatever it is that we're thinking of using. And what I find with a lot of people is that they think, oh, I'm right. if I have the correct conception of God, if I say the God I believe in is one, and I don't think that is sufficient. It's like you're supposed to believe that that the Abrahamic God is perfectly moral and will reward good and evil in this life and the next. That is, it's one of the 13 principles of Judaism, and for the whole thing to work properly, this is what you have to believe. Would you agree, John?
Absolutely. I mean, if you don't believe in the ideology and the fundamental principles, I mean, how is anything supposed to work? You want a functional society, you want functional people, and that's the best that you're going to get is people. If you want, how do I put this clear? Let's see. If you got people like Aaron, right, who don't, he's saying, how do I know how I live? You just punch in the dark. Well, that's the point, right? You don't live like anything. You live like a cockroach. You live like, you have no autonomy. You live like you're just a whisper in the wind. You're a fart in the wind. And that's what happens. It crumbles like a stack, a house of cards, because there's no fundamental principles. There's nothing to live, base your life on. And you're just a bunch of you're just a balloon with full, hot air. And then Claire comes along with secular Koranism and pops the balloon, and now here you are, shattered in a million pieces, exploded. And then then we're here trying to psychoanalyze. Well, what do you know about me? Well, I know you're destroyed. I know you're a pop balloon. I know you're full of hot air. I know that for sure.
Hmm.
Does that make sense, Claire?
Yes, I mean, obviously he's a lost soul, and and I think it makes sense to. I don't know if you were listening to me. I think the past few days, I arrived at this idea of managing all these sort of different groups of people in their different religions, because I was reminded of something called Pancasila, which is the state ideology of Indonesia, and Indonesia is an empire, and it manages people, the different groups of people in its empire, by dividing them into religious groups. So
What does it do?
there's
Wait,
only
wait. What
six
does
apparently.
Indonesia do? They have different. Wait. They have different ethnic groups and they divide them by religion.
Yeah,
So so it
that's how
makes it
they
what
do it.
simplified. So just like you have all these hundreds of people, different groups, hundreds of different groups, and you just
Um,
categorize them. And
yeah, they don't have a category for Jews, but and the atheists are complaining that there isn't a category for atheists, and therefore they're not protected and treated like freaks and that sort of thing. But Pancasila also requires Indonesians to believe in one God. It's actually a requirement. So it sounds quite no-hide, doesn't it? I'll put the link of that for that in the chat, because I think it's quite
I'll take a look at that.
interesting.
Yeah, that's cool. So basically, believing in God is it's a fundamental principle in Indonesia. It's it's a tenet to be there. It's to be a citizen.
Yeah, and also I think it's actually a necessary tool to logical thinking. Even if you don't really believe, even if you sort of say you're not really sure that there is, God, but I mean, okay, this is how I function. Which is that if God exists, then He would do this, do that, or and then it becomes quite straightforward. So it would help us solve problems, I think, by making it. Okay, the whole narrative of the Abrahamic God is that he creates good and evil, and therefore, um, if you suffer from any evil and you think it's created by God, then you would have to conclude, because the Abrahamic God is supposed to be perfectly moral, that he is punishing you for something, and of course it must be for sin. And then you just go through the list of things you might have that you did that you think God might not approve of, and then you think, well, better not do that anymore and see how things go if I stop doing it. It's that kind of idea. Does that make sense, John?
Yeah, I'm reading up on the article that you sent me. I'm taking a look at that. It looks
Mm-hmm.
interesting. Fundamental philosophy theories of Indonesia. The name is made up of two words. Five principles. Yeah. Okay. So the five principles are: believe in one God, just and civilized humanity, the unity of Indonesia, democracy guided by inner wisdom, social justice for all people of Indonesia. Well, yeah. It seems American. Constitutional.
Mm-hmm.
Weren't you? You're originally from Malaysia, right?
Mm-hmm.
How different is Malaysia from Indonesia?
Well, Indonesia doesn't have an official religion, right? So it just organizes itself in a different way. But while Malaysia is actually ethno-nationalist and Muslim officially, the official
Mm,
religion of
yeah.
Malaysia is Islam. So it's a different way of putting things, but the people and the language and the culture are quite similar. I mean the appearances of the different groups, you know, they they look alike. You can't tell
Oh,
the difference between a Malaysian, a Malay or an Indonesian.
I have to be honest with you. I'm one of those Americans that wouldn't be able to tell the difference from a Malay and a Malaysian and a
Yeah,
Indonesian and Taiwanese and Taiwanese and
yeah,
Japanese.
especially when they get a tan.
Oh, that's funny because Vietnamese people kind of like darker, right? Aren't they a little dark in the color there? Yeah,
Yeah, well,
they look
because it's dark, that these people get a tan, and then they look no different from the people who would have that shade, even if they
right.
didn't have a tan, if you know what I mean. But I mean, okay, Polynesians are kind of, well, I mean, okay, they look like Polynesians, right? I think that originally they were Polynesians. All these people.
Yeah, Yeah, right. Polynesian there, from the islands. Yeah, right. Hawaii and all that. Yeah, I'm reading this right here.
Yeah,
It
yeah.
says, can we see? Let me see if I can blow this up for the audience if
Okay.
they can see it. Criticism: the international humanists and ethnic unions (IHEU), an atheist group, has criticized the first SELA. Is that how you say it? Because it does not include a right to atheism, a rejection of theistic beliefs.
That's
Hmm.
right.
Yeah. Hey, Boo Boo, you all right?
Mhm.
I'm talking to Clay. You want to say hello?
Hello. Hi, how are you?
And I'm very well. Hello, Mrs. Gischala.
I'm fine.
We're discussing. I don't know what is the topic exactly. What are we trying to get at, Claire? What's the
Well, we can talk about Pancasila now, but I was saying, I was talking about really correct ways of thinking by having the right idea about, well, whatever idea it is that you're supposed to have. Okay, well, okay, I'm really talking about religion, right? I mean,
right?
I guess I'll make no bones about it. And Pancasila is basically saying you have to believe in one God, and even if you don't, you have to pretend you do. I mean, that's basically it, right?
Right. So doesn't I
Um,
mean when you have it? So you have this organization in Indonesia that's an atheist group. How are they able to exist if it's illegal? So they let people who are atheists in the country. Basically, is that what I'm getting at?
no, no. I mean, okay. This is how it works. So Indonesian law only recognizes the religions of Buddhism, 1, 2, Confucianism, 3, Hinduism, 4, Islam, 5, Protestantism, and 6, Catholicism. So there's only these 6 groups. And if you're not any of them, then you're going to be basically treated, well, be marginalized.
Right. You're basically like you're a citizen, but you're like a 3/5 a person, kind of like back in the day in the United States. Really, you're like a 3/5. You know, you're not quite there.
A good example would be you know, everybody else has a wrench in the live chat, but you don't.
Right. Yeah. Right. You can't do anything. Yeah. You run your mouth, you're gonna get blocked. Yeah. Well, that's actually a good thing. I like that actually. I wish we had a system like that here in the States. That's a nice, you start spewing you know, some garbage, and then people have their lunch and they can just shut it off. I like that.
Yes, and okay, we do kind of have this system in the UK, and it's something called the Equality Act, 2010, and it's a kind of
Oh,
reverse
equality. I just, the name of it makes me want to just.
Yeah, I
puke.
know. And so basically, what it's supposed to do is give certain groups protected characteristics, right? So if you're gay, you know, your sexual orientation is a protected characteristics. If you're female, you know, the fact that you know men don't complain about, you know, being discriminated against, and so it's basically okay. Let me think. Sexual orientation, sex, age, religion, and race. 5 things, I think, off the top of my head. I may be wrong, but
When they say religion and race are protected groups, they don't actually mean like straight white Christian men. Like they mean just like foreigners of a different religion. That's basically what it means.
yeah,
Right? When they say
anyone who
religion is a what do they mean by religion's a protective group? Like are Catholics are allowed to spew like anti-contraceptive laws? Like they're going to pass laws banning condoms? Of course not. That's not. They're not a protective group. I mean, that's basically what they're saying is non-Western religions are protected, right?
Yeah, the effect of it is to marginalize the dominant group, i.e., well, I would say married fathers who happen to be white. Yes.
Right. Yeah.
So they have no protected characteristic. So that means that they're too scared to say or do anything, and things don't get done. Then, you know.
Let me guess. Someone like Boris Johnson was in favor for something of this to be passed. I'm guessing.
It's actually a consolidating. It was
Tony
lots
Blair.
of MPs, but there were already laws like that, and they just put it all in one act. It, you know, used to be part of the Sex Discrimination Act, which was passed in 1972.
It's not going to.
I
have a feeling.
1976.
I have a feeling that the United Kingdom isn't going to last long, Claire.
No, not the way it's going.
I mean, you got the head guy. I mean, I kind of like Boris Johnson. He's got a sharp whip to him, but I mean, he just looks like a character. I mean, look the way his hair is.
Like a clown.
He looks like Curly from fucking Three Stooges with a wig. I mean, it's just like, you know, I mean, it's just like it's like, what am I dealing with? It's like a comedy show England over there.
Yeah, and you think, comb your hair, for God's sakes. Just comb your hair. Stop embarrassing us.
Yeah, he looks like he just got bullied. He's like a type of guy that got like bullied in high school, and they gave him a swirly, and now his hair is like that. You know, it looks like he just got out of the bathroom with a. You know what a swirly is, Claire?
No, I don't. What is it?
It's like in high school when they beat up the runt kid, and they take him, like 4 guys take him, and they put him upside down in the toilet and they flush, And that's what it's
Um,
called, a swirly. And so it looked like his hair
oh,
looks like he just got a swirly, you know.
uh-huh.
You know, it's like, I mean, that's what I think of when I see not that I'm trying to be mean to him, but it's just like I wish, I wish he was dignified looking, kind of like an upper stiff lip type of guy, like a Winston
Mm.
Churchill type of guy. Like whatever, what happened to that? What happened to people like him? You know.
Yeah, became extinct. Huh.
I mean,
Yeah.
you had didn't you have what's that? Martha Thatcher. What was her name? Thatcher. What? How do you say her name?
Yes, yes. Margaret Thatcher, yeah.
What happened to her? Now she was kind of like she was like a hawk, right? She was like kind of like a hard, hard line conservative, but she was like for the downfall of Western society too. When you think about it, because she didn't really do anything. I mean, what did she do
Yeah, yeah,
really at
because
the end
I mean,
of the day?
she started the whole thing of we're gonna make um, men who pump and dump women pay, and that was a child support agency, and so the, they'd be tracked down, and I don't think men should be made to support any illegitimate offspring. It's like, well, it's too bad. Well, you shouldn't have had sex with him, and oh well, don't do it then. Don't do it. Women don't have sex with men, uh, uh, and if you do, make sure you don't get pregnant. If you get pregnant, don't have the kid. I mean, and don't have the kid and complain, and then try and get him to pay because he never intended to father any offspring by you, kind of thing. I mean, okay, I mean, maybe you think it's too harsh or whatever, but I'm saying if this rule were clear, then women wouldn't do it as much.
But I mean, these are just symptoms of the larger problem. I mean, the pump and dump issue is really it goes deeper than that, a cultural issue. I mean, it's promoted in the culture that men have to bang every whore that they see, and women have to dress like whores, and wear booty point pants with juicy on the ass, and flash their tits around. This is this is you got to act like that. This is the way. This is cool. This is liberal. This is hip. I mean, this is the way you got to act. Oh, I'm a LGBT ally. Oh, I'm proud to be an ally. Oh, look at me. It's just like what the hell is going on here? And it's like, and then you wonder why you get pumped and dumped. Well, I mean, I mean, you're promoting yourself as like your vagina is like the public sewer. It's like, yeah, I mean, and then the
Mm,
men are promoted as if they're like whatever, and then that's the father of your kid. And then you have good guys, right? You have men out there who are straight laced, and they comb their hair and they shave and they look good, but oh well, they're dorks, they're dweebs, they're losers. We don't want it. We don't want, he doesn't have a gun in his pants with his around his ankles, so he's not, he doesn't. I don't want to be with him. But the guy with the pants around the ankles been to prison 3 times. That's who you want to be
mm.
with. You get what I'm trying to say? It's like
Of
you have your
course I
priorities
do.
backwards. I'm
Yeah,
preaching it.
and
I'm really just
that's where
preaching to
people
the
are getting
choir.
stupider. Sorry.
I said I'm preaching to the choir with you, aren't I?
But yes, obviously the culture has to change, and I mean, the only way to do it is to punish the behavior that you find undesirable, and to force people to change. And now we can't even talk about these things, or nobody's interested in talking about these things. And fundamentally, it all centers on gender relations and the price of sex. And it's considered vulgar to talk about the price of sex, but I mean, really, it means that we're not really supposed to marry. to have sex with anyone we're not married to. And this idea was not shocking in the time of our parents or grandparents. That was taken for granted, and now the opposite is taken for granted, and it hasn't exactly improved society, in my view, because
Well,
it's just
that would
making
be my
everybody more
this
angry
is
and
this would be my
confused.
question for people in the audience, for those who are listening. Has the social progress of the past 30 years, the liberal social justice of LGBT and all this sexual rights and liberation and women's rights, did they help society or did they hurt society? That's the poll I want to take for the audience. I want to hear what people think about this as well. Obviously, clear, your position is it's obviously hurting us, and we need something like to fix this. Obviously, Islam or secular Koranism in your case. But I would like
Well,
to
I mean,
hear people.
the old-fashioned way of calling it would be slut shaming, right? I mean, that was how it worked, and it dealt with the supply problem. If you cut off the supply, then the behavior won't happen. And so, it was always concentrated on women, because the worst thing that could happen would be, illegitimate offspring produced. And therefore, if you shame the women because they can't skip town, it doesn't benefit them to arrive in a new place, husbandless and pregnant. So, but men can always leave town if they want to escape their responsibilities. So, I think feminism has confused so many people, because feminism is so stupid, and it basically treats women as if they never suffer from unwanted pregnancy. And says, well, if a man can screw around, so can a woman. And therefore, the society is going to
Right.
be arranged on this
I mean,
assumption,
basically,
even though it's not true.
basically, what feminism gives the world is, women are going to act like men. That's
The
basically
worst
what
kind of man. The,
the
the
worst
worst
type of
kind of
man,
man.
right? Instead of uplifting women and making women, better and giving them a sense of purpose and identity, which I would probably say, Quranic values, Torah values would give a woman, right? A proper role and an identity, who she is, and actually highlighting a woman's, virtues and beauty, right? And instead, it's beating her down. You're a guy. I was at the doctor's office. I was wanted to pick up the wife, right? It's so funny.
Mhm.
Before I went live with you, I forgot to mention this. There's a guy online. There's a woman online, and and the doctor goes, "I'll help you, sir." Now, and she goes, "Sir, I'm a woman," and it's like you clearly look, and it's a dude. Like you look like I'm. Not to be offensive. Like I turned around, I said, "You're mad because she said sir." Why you dress the way you do? I mean, it's like, well, what do you, it's like, what are you upset about? Isn't that what you want,
Hmm.
to be called sir? It's like, just to be offended just for the sake of being offended, right?
Well,
Just like
sorry. Is this person a man or a woman, and what was he or she wearing? Just to be clear.
basically it looked like a farm, like a stereotypical redneck farmer look, like a
Uh
get
huh.
like an American farmer look, but the flannel shirt and the overalls and with the short hair, and
Hmm.
it's like it's supposed to be a woman, and the doctor goes, "Okay, I can help you now, sir." Sir, and she, sure, I'm a woman. It's like what? Yeah, sure. Maybe in a Twilight episode, you're a woman. Not any woman in my world. That's for sure. It's
Hmm.
like. But anyway,
So,
I
so
don't
it
know.
was actually a man. It was actually a man, but he wanted to be called a woman. Is that what you're saying? He was.
No, it was a woman, but you would never know it was a woman because it's in men's
Ah.
clothing and a men's haircut and men's whatever shit. You know what
Uh-huh.
I mean? It's like it was just ridiculous, and it's like you see this all the time. When we went to Subway the other day with the wife, me and the wife, and the guy behind the counter was a woman. It's like you can clearly see the beard, but it's like you got the fingernails and the dress and the long hair and the lisp. It's like, "Hey, what do you want to order?" It's like, oh my god, it's like everywhere you go now. It's like
Hmm.
everywhere you go now. It's like nonstop.
Hmm.
It's like I used to see it just once in a while. Now it's
Yeah.
like now you see it every day. It's like what freaks are out today. You know.
Hmm. Hmm.
But what we were talking about, I went off on a tangent. Sorry, you know how I am, Claire.
Well, I guess I'm saying that it is really religion that tells us, what we're supposed to be doing by telling us, that we can't change our sex, even if we're not happy with the way, even if you wanted to become really, 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 really wanted to become a member of the opposite sex, we have to accept, you know, what we are and try to live within, and try to be as happy as possible, even though we're not quite happy. Maybe we still wish we were a member of the opposite sex and make the best of things, which I think is the whole purpose of believing in God, isn't it?
Mm. Do you
It,
think
it gives
secular
us,
Koranism gives the people the opportunity to live the best they are, even though they're not happy?
well, it gives them the rules that might incline them to think that God exists, but allows them, to deny the existence of God if that is what they wish to do. Because, the moment you say you've got to believe, they'll all resist and say, no, we don't, we won't. So if you leave them alone, they're probably more likely in time to think, well, maybe it's true. Maybe we want to say we believe, you know. But if you say you've got to believe, then they're going to just dig their heels in and say they don't. In any way, the Quran is supposed to guarantee freedom of belief. So, you can't really make them, you can't really force it on people anyway, because
Mm.
you're not
Yeah.
supposed to.
Mm.
And, it just seems a shame because, the more I think about it, the more it becomes increasingly obvious that it is the best available guide. Um, it seems a pity not to use what is in fact the best available guide, and then just be complaining all the time, pretending that there is no answer when the answer is right in front of you.
Why do you think they do that though? Why do they have the answer in front of them, but they don't want to accept it?
I
It
think
hurts
there's
their
a Jewish
pride, or
saying. Well, yes, I suppose that's the explanation. But isn't there a Jewish belief about the cure existing before the disease? The cure exists before the disease.
right. So, from my understanding, whenever there's like a problem from a Torah perspective, the answer is always the always is given before the problem exists. Like,
Yes,
for
the
example,
idea that God has so arranged the universe that in his compassion he make he does cause a problem, but is not.
but
Um,
you have the solution to solve that problem beforehand. Like you already know the answer before the problem exists, right? Like
or
like
it's
God
just
already gave
there.
you the answer. Like God gave
Yeah,
you the answer. God gave you like a cheat sheet to the quiz, right? There's going to be a quiz for like 10 questions, but you have the answers beforehand, and it's
yeah,
like you're stubborn if you don't answer the questions correctly because you don't accept the answer. Really, is what the answer is that like when Cain, when he had the problem, he was going to kill his brother. God told him the answer to why you're going to kill your brother and why you're going to be lost and you're going to be wandering is you're not you're depressed, and the answer is you got to fix your continence and change the way you look on life. But he didn't want to listen, and he continued to so you go down that dark path anyway, right? Because you don't
mhm,
want to accept the answer. You don't want to look at the problem face on. So you get run over, and that was it. So
Mhm.
I think that's a good.
Mm.
I think that's a good way of looking at it, and I wish more people saw that. It's interesting that you knew that, Claire. That's good. Yeah. So,
Mm.
and I think that's the answer is that most people already know the answer. People already know the
Yeah.
answer to a lot of things. They just choose not to ignore it, or they choose a different path just to be stubborn. They
Mhm.
want to do it their way.
Mhm. But
And
John, what do you think? I mean, I think not so long ago you said you were losing your faith or something, but you seem sort of pretty together today. And I mean, do you not find that? I mean, even if you said, well, this thing happened and that means I don't believe in God, there's always a counter argument. I mean, for both positions. Do you find?
I think that's a problem I find that I have is that there's so many answers that pull you into different directions, and you're being ripped apart. Metaphorically speaking, you're getting pulled in all different directions. I think that's a problem. Sometimes I think having too much faith is a problem. I think there was a time when I had a lot of faith. I mean, I believed like like a crazy person at one point. I'm not not saying that like I was hearing voices, but I at one point I was thinking, I thought God was talking to me, and God was showing me how to live and stuff like that. And it's like, when you come down from that high, I guess, when if whatever you want to call it, it's like, and then you don't hear that, you don't have that feeling anymore. It's like, what do you call that? Is that losing faith? Does God not care about me anymore? And it kind of hurts in a way. So I guess I was brought back down to an earthly level, I guess you can say. I was brought back down to reality, and it's like now that I see reality for the way it is, it's like, oh, it sucks. And I guess that's what I meant by losing faith. Is like seeing the world for what it is. It's like, oh, I don't know.
Mhm. But I mean, can't it be explained by it's like, well, you could in theory solve it, but you won't because you're too full of pride, you're too lazy to look in the right place, you refuse to listen and all that. So, but there's already a ready explanation, which it doesn't in any way detract from the existence of God. If it's important for you to believe in it, but then you could be upset. I suppose you could genuinely believe in God, but be afraid of going to hell because you did all those terrible things. So
And
uh,
it wasn't really that. I mean, obviously, there was a part of me
I
that
wasn't
wanted to
meaning
do.
you in particular.
There was a part of me that wanted to do teshuva and repent and change my way in life, and there was a part of me that I knew that I was doing living the wrong way, and I tried. I mean, I genuinely believed in Chabad, and I was a believer. I used to pray 5 hours in the morning every day, and then
Wow.
study another 3 hours, and then come back at night and pray another 2 hours. I mean, I was spending half my day, uh, you know, doing these things, and then you have people like Pigger, who was the run of the mill, my colleague at the shul, and that's how they talk. That's how that he's no different than the people than the cocksuckers that I was dealing with at the synagogue. Oh, you're just a fake. Oh, you don't really belong here. You don't, it's like you're a goy, and you always be a goy, and that was that, and it's like, well, I'm coming here to be close to God, right? Like I'm coming here to believe in the Word of God, and I'm trying to get better, and it's like you're the one chopping down on Chaz or pig, and breaking Shabbos and doing all these other things. Here am I, devoted, praying, doing everything, keeping the mitzvot, and you're the I'm the piece of garbage, right? It's like a gaslighting. I was basically being gaslit every day for 7 years.
Do, do,
Claire. And it's like,
mm,
what do you
mm.
do after 7 years of being gaslit by pieces of garbage? By Jews that were, basically, God, I hope, I hope these aren't the chosen people, because God, you got something to answer for, and that would be something that I would ask God when I die. It's like, why you're talking about these are the people that are supposed to be religious people? These people are supposed to be religious. and they act like pieces of shit. They act like the biggest cocksuckers that you can ever imagine. I don't mean the curse, but I feel very passionate about this. And it's like, like I like to say, bigger the black hat, bigger the asshole. And that's the truth. These weren't men of God. The rabbi wasn't a man of God. The petitioners weren't men of God. The congregates, whatever you want to call them, these were not people that I would associate with Abraham. That's for sure. Or the
Hmm.
prophets, Moses. I mean, definitely nothing. Nothing. I mean, I wish I could be like that. I wish I could meet Abraham. I wish I can meet Moses, meet Muhammad, meet Jesus. Because I would really want to see what is this really what they would have been like. If would Moses call me a piece of garbage? I'm a fake.
Hmm. Hmm.
Would Moses talk like Pigger in the comments? Would Pig? That's my question for you, Clay. Would Pigger be a representation of how Abraham would have talked to his guests when he
Hmm.
was finding converts in the desert of Babylon? Was he talking like that? Because if he was, I don't want nothing to do with that. But the truth is, he wasn't talking like that. The truth is, he was talking different. He was talking with respect and dignity for the human race. I'm made in the image of God. So how many times I was spit on? I would go and people would spit on me.
What, Jews?
Yeah. Oh sure.
What?
Oh
That
sure. Oh
sounds a bit
yeah. Sure.
extreme.
Oh sure. Sure. They didn't think so.
But
So they're
well,
spitting on
I'm
something that
shocked.
I'm made in the image of God, but I wasn't to them. So
Why would they do a thing like that?
I've talked about this several times in the channel. I mean, I don't want to get too much into it, but just people at the they were people that were there, and they were very hostile towards anyone that they're cliquish. So you had different groups of people at the shul. You had Israeli group that they were part of their own group. They had the Farsi, the Persians. They were their own group. You had the American Jews. You had Chabadniks, and then you had the modern Orthodox people. So everyone was in their own group, and it was
Hmm.
like I didn't really fit in any of the groups. So I was like basically my own group, and
Were
you
there
just get.
no new converts? Isn't there a new convert group
Well, no,
or
no.
not?
You think anyone wants to be a part of a group that treats people like garbage? I stuck it out for 7 years only because I thought Hashem, God wanted me to be there. I don't know what I was thinking, but
Hmm.
you know, no. You think anyone wants to be a part of a group of people that treat people like that?
Hmm. Well, I
And
suppose
there was
you.
one time a security guard. One time they hired this guy, security guard
Hmm.
for Rosh Hashanah, right? Because it was the Jewish New
Hmm.
Year, and he was like
Hmm.
an ex-cop, this tall
Hmm.
white guy goy, non-Jew, and it
Hmm.
was during the service, and I was taking a break because it's like a long day, like 8 hours of prayer on Rosh Hashanah. And
Hmm.
I went for a walk, and I was talking to the guy, and I was finding out a little bit about him and what he was doing, and we were talking about religion, and it came, I basically I said to him, if some terrorist really, came here today and wanted to kill Jews, and you defended them, and let's say you jumped in front of the bullets to protect the Jew, they wouldn't go to your funeral, right? And he goes, "What? They wouldn't give a shit if you died for them." He said, "What do you mean?" He goes, "You're a goy. You don't even have a soul." He goes, "What?" He goes, "Yeah, you didn't know Chabad teaches that goyim don't have souls." And he
Hmm.
goes, "Wait. He goes to me. These Jews believe that goyim." Yeah, yeah. You know how I explained to him, just think of everything the Nazis used to say about Jews. Just reverse it. And he goes, "What do you mean?" And he goes, "Yeah, they don't. They're subhuman. You're an animal. You're a goy. So if you die for them, it wouldn't mean anything." And he laughed. He literally laughed. It was like 4 hours left of the service. He basically laughed once I told him this. And there was no one
Hmm.
protecting the shoal, so whatever. I was kind of like I was kind of on the way out. It was like towards my last year being there, so I was
Hmm.
a little I was a little bitter, a little hateful.
Hmm.
But it's the
Hmm.
truth. I mean, and then I'm getting in the fight with the rabbi because why did the guy leave? And I say, I felt like telling the truth. It's like, well, why did you tell him that? I mean, well, isn't that what you believe? Why are you upset about the truth? What the truth offends you all of a sudden?
Mm-hmm.
You know?
Yeah.
So, so I don't know. I don't know what they. I don't even know what I'm trying to say. It's just like, I'm just. I don't know. Towards the end of it all, Claire, I was just. I kind of just didn't care at the end of it. It's like I was only doing it because I was trying to fulfill my end of the bargain. You
Mm-hmm.
know.
But it's not compulsory to spend so much time there, is it? Or I don't know. Is it? I mean,
Is it compulsory?
maybe.
No, you're not commanded to do it, but I felt like I had to do repentance. I felt like I had to make up for lost time. I
Mm-hmm.
felt like I needed to be punished. So I took the
Mm-hmm.
abuse. You know,
Mm-hmm. Ah.
I don't know,
Ah.
man. I was probably. I would think looking back, I was probably crazy. Like I was saying, it's like any normal person would have left. You know, like that's why you don't have converts, right, in Judaism, right? I mean, a normal person, a normal non-Jew goes to a synagogue and goes, "Huh, I wonder if I want to be Jewish," and then they get it, and they get treated like garbage the first day, and then you don't come back ever again, right? It's like that's a normal person's reaction. Like, why would you want to go somewhere that you feel unwelcomed, right? It's
But
like,
you did you go to the synagogue before you converted, or and were
yeah,
they
of
like?
course. My very first day, I was. This is like back in 2015. This is no December of 2015. I decided one day to start praying. I have to go do. I got to fix something. I got to do something. I was a Noahide at the time, so I
Mm-hmm.
started going to shul. I started going to the minyan every morning, every night. 10 people, 10 Jews get together to pray. Right, a minyan. And I went to the
Mm-hmm.
night prayers, and they were like, "Who are you? What are you doing here?" It's like, well, I want to, I want to get right with God, and I want to, change my ways, and I want to get better. And they're looking at me like I'm crazy. Like, what do you mean? It's like, but no one really said anything to me at first, but I knew that I wasn't welcome there, right? You always felt different. I always felt different.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe I have to sit in the back of the shul. I'm not counted. I'm not. I have to stay apart. I can't touch the food, and you're drink whatever, because
Oh.
as a non-Jew you contaminate the food. It's like that type of
Mm-hmm.
mentality. So,
Mm-hmm.
and I just, long story short, I stuck with it. I don't know. I just
Mm-hmm.
felt so connected at the time. I felt like, ironically speaking, I felt like that's where I had to go to pray. Like I felt like like God was there and I could connect. Not saying that the people there were godly, but there was something there that I could reach out to God.
Mm-hmm.
That's really weird because as the environment was hostile, there was somehow, you know what I mean? It was like, you know what I mean? It's weird. I don't know how to say it. It's like a Christian saying that he has to go to Mecca every day to pray because that's the only way he can find Jesus. It's weird. That sounds kind of weird to people, but that's how I felt. I felt like that's where I had to go every day.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I don't know.
Well,
Yeah,
do you remember Carol? I mean, she was saying she stuck at it for well 40 years,
yeah. What being a what
and
a
and
Christian?
she was saying they weren't particularly nice to her. But I suppose once you take the big step, you don't want to be to give it up when you've
Well,
taken
I
up such
always
a
I
big.
always made it clear that I wanted to be Jewish and I wanted to convert, and so now they think it's a mitzvah to push you away, right? Jews think that
Three
it's,
times.
well, that's a myth, but there's actually no limit. I mean, they can push you away 200 times.
Uh-huh.
Um, but which what they did to me. They never they so I had I eventually left and I converted somewhere else
Hmm.
because Chabad, the Chabad doesn't actually believe in conversions because they believe that the Rebbe was the Messiah. They're the Lubavitcher Rebbe, Menachem Mendel Schneerson. So,
Mm-hmm.
according to the Talmud, there's no converts during the Messianic age. So they believe that they're living in the Messianic age. So you can't
Mm-hmm.
convert people. So
Mm-hmm.
there's a limit to over. So I ended
Mm-hmm.
up having to go somewhere else. Um,
So,
but even if I and even when I went somewhere else, they still didn't accept it. So
mm-hmm.
that was that. So I figured,
Mm-hmm.
I moved I got I married and I moved and I left and that
Mm-hmm.
was the end of it. I just there were good people there. That being said, Claire, I did meet a couple of people there that were
Mm-hmm.
very nice to me. There was actually a
Mm-hmm.
Persian gentleman who I remember
Mm-hmm.
during the thick of it, and he
Mm-hmm.
came in to say Kaddish for his father. His father had died, so when your mother or father dies, you have to say for a year Kaddish. And
Mm-hmm.
he said, he's banging on the table. Hey, Rabbi, I want to go. I want to go. I want to start praying. He goes, we got to wait for 10 Jews, and he counts 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And I was
Mm-hmm.
one of the 10. And the rabbi says, no, we need 10. And he goes, what do you mean we had 10? And someone said to him, oh, he's a goy. He don't count. And he gets up. He walks over to me and hugs me and kisses me. And he says, don't ever let someone tell you you don't count. He said the
Hmm.
moment that I walked through those doors, I was considered converted. He says this to me. He goes, I'm not a
Oh.
rabbi, and I can't say who's a Jew or who's not a Jew, but I think you're one. Don't ever let them.
Oh.
Don't even let. So there were people there that were good like that. I mean, one out of 1,000, but
Mm-hmm.
there
Mm-hmm.
were still people there that were very loving and caring. And he was a good man. And
Mm-hmm.
uh, so there were. That being said,
Mm-hmm.
good people out there that weren't bigoted and hateful and you know discriminated and have bigotry towards other people.
Mm-hmm.
I know I'm a cis white man, but yeah, I felt bigotry in my life. Sure, but
Yeah. Yeah.
it is what it is.
Yes.
I don't
How
I
are you
don't cry
finding it
about it.
with
I'm not gonna-
how are you finding it as a Muslim now?
Yeah, it's all right. I mean, I don't. I mean, there's not really Muslims around here to communicate with, but it's all right. I mean, it's really just me and my wife.
Maybe that's how you want it to be.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, like an Abraham, in the middle of nowhere, being living with yourself, with living with God.
Yeah.
You know.
I mean that's probably safest, I think.
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
I do so many Christians who and I thought, I bet you don't go to church because you're so weird, and lo and behold, they say that no, I don't go to church. I just believe Jesus is God, and no,
Mm,
I can't stand the people there, so I'm not going there. To spoil my Sunday.
mm,
So
yeah.
so I guess there are lots of people in lots of religions who can't stand their co-religionists.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I wouldn't have gone away if they didn't push me away. I mean, I wish they accepted me. I kind of wish they, everything would have been all right. But This is why I have kind of like a disconnect with God, and I question. It's like, why did God lead me down this way? God gave me a wife and I'm Muslim now, and I converted to Islam, and it's like it's very distorted. I'm like all over the place. It's like I'm just trying to figure out things, and I'm trying to understand. And it's difficult. Because it's sometimes I feel like I don't have the answers, and not having answers it makes me feel like out of place. But I get by. I
Hmm.
do get
Hmm.
by.
What was what answers to the big questions of life, or do you need something else?
Well, I mean, I know the big questions like what's my purpose and why are we here. I could care less. But no, I mean, I used to think like when I woke up in the morning, I knew what I had to do. You know what I mean? and I felt like I was in sync with the world and
Mm-hmm.
God. Everything
Mm-hmm.
kind of flowed. Now it
Mm-hmm.
kind of doesn't do that anymore. Now I feel like I'm like um like a pin pong. I can't even say it. A ping pong ball being boom 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 bounced around back and forth. It's like, ugh, I feel a
Mm-hmm.
little. If that makes any sense,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
but not really more to the answer, just more towards stability.
Mm-hmm.
Why did I
Do
convert
you
it?
find that the 5 times prayer stabilizing or annoying?
I mean, I to be honest with you, I don't really do that. I mean, I don't
Okay.
really. I probably, not allowed to say it, right? But get your head chopped off. But it is what it is. I don't really care.
Well,
Um,
I suppose as long as you can remember to do it in your head anyway, you're kind of
I
doing
don't,
it.
I don't really feel a connection when I do it. I don't. It just doesn't resonate with me. I don't hear, when I prayed at shul, I did hear something back. So that's why I did it. That's why I continued to do it for 7 years. Pray every day, every morning, every night for 7 years. I was always on schedule. But now I don't. It's I have to take out the carpet and bend and knee, and it's just exercise, and it doesn't. To me, it's just like exercising. It doesn't have no feedback.
Hmm. But most
So
people, I think most Muslims don't really, get a feedback. They go through the motions, and I guess for some it has to be good enough.
well, for me, I don't like doing anything if I don't have my heart in it. If I don't really
But
believe
you
it,
can
I
have a
don't.
dialogue with God anytime, right? I mean, all you have to do is think, and then you
But
have
they
this
don't. That's
dialogue.
not good enough for Muslims, though. Just having a dialogue with
Well,
God,
it doesn't
talking to
matter what
God.
they think.
Well, it
I
matters
mean,
what they
actually,
think when
do
they
they
cut your
ask
head
you how
off.
many? But they don't.
Well, yeah. Well, in practice, it's a little more difficult. Let's just put it that way. I mean, you get a lot. I mean, people are, you're ostracized and you're put down. Like I can't tell you how many times a day I'm put down for not doing it. Made to feel
But I mean,
bad about
are they
myself.
there to check you? Do they say, "Oh, have you
I
prayed
should probably
today?"
just say I do it, right? Is that what you're saying? I should just say, yeah, sure, I did
Well,
it.
I mean, do they actually ask you? I mean, that seems a bit intrusive. Oh, have you prayed today? Do they really ask you that? And do they ask
Yeah,
each other that?
I don't know, but me and the wife, we kind of get back and forth about it a little bit.
Oh, she
It's
asks you to do if you've
yeah,
done it. Well, I
yeah.
suppose.
Now you get,
I suppose you could ask her not to.
yeah,
You know,
sure. I
and then you
should,
might be more and you might be more likely to. I don't know, just some form of words to sort of get her off your back, I guess.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah, I think
I
so.
don't know anymore. I only person I fear is God, and only person I care about is God. I mean, if God puts me in a big lake of fire for all of eternity, it is what it is. You know, I was watching an imam, a Muslim preacher guy on YouTube,
Hmm.
and he was, saying it was like, are Christians and Jews going to heaven because they believe in God and they're good people? And his answer, in short, is basically no. Even though they might give charity and they might love people and they might help people, simply because they're not Muslim and they don't pray 5 times a day and they don't go to Hajj, and you're lost. You're condemned. So if that's the case, if I'm just condemned because I don't, do it, whatever. It is what it is. You
Well, I
know.
don't think it's it's not in the book anyway. And how would this guy know? And also, I guess they're supposed to say that, if you're a Jew, you have to think that only your way works because otherwise, why do it? And Catholics used to condemn other kinds of Christians for not being Catholic. So I guess
That's my position. I agree with that. As long as as long as you're a good person and you believe in God and you give charity and you help people, I think you're a doctor. You're telling me a doctor who saved thousands of people's lives. You're telling me just because he believed Jesus was God and God was a man for 30 years that he's condemned to go to hell for all eternity? I can't. Yeah, do I think it's silly and idolatrous? Yeah, sure, but I don't think that person is condemned. I don't think that's so evil that someone's condemned for doing it. I mean, maybe,
well, I suppose, I mean, okay, look at it this way. Um, According to the Torah, this a list of 36 capital offences, and I suppose we can deduce from that if you're not convicted and executed for those in your during your lifetime, then presumably you will have you will undergo those punishments in the afterlife, and and then after that you're free. It's like, okay, you've got 4 death penalties waiting for you, just supposing, and it's strangulation, death by fire, beheading, and stoning, and then you have to go through all of them, supposing that were the case, and then you go through them, and then it's like, yeah, and then you're free. That's your then you're free to enjoy the rest of your eternity, right? I mean,
so
you
you're
can look
saying
at
that
it that way.
God beats you up for a couple of days and then lets you go on your way. Is that basically what you're
Yeah,
saying?
yeah.
All right. Okay. All right.
Well, I mean, we don't know, but I mean, surely the Jewish view must be this. Otherwise, what's the point of the 36 capital offences that are never inflicted in this life, and will never be inflicted on, you know, in this world.
Hmm.
I don't think it
Yeah.
will, be revived, but as something that is put into the mind of Jews, it seems effective enough. And
Well, you're not
okay,
even really
so
supposed. I mean, you're not even really supposed to believe in eternal punishment as a Jew. I mean, you're supposed to believe that the most that will ever happen to you is less than a year. 11 months, and that's it. A person can never. I mean, there are some people that believe in like annihilation. Like, okay, if you're evil, God like extinguishes your soul and you go forever. Like you disappear forever. But there's no so you're not supposed to really believe in like punishment for all of eternity anyway. I mean,
yeah, because it's
okay,
not mentioned.
right. So it's what you're saying makes sense. Okay, you were supposed to be hung or beheaded, and but you weren't. So okay, God punishes you for that one thing, and then you can go on your way. That makes sense.
Mm.
I don't know. I guess you're in like a dungeon in heaven, and then God just like cuts your head off every day for a year. I guess I don't know, but
Well,
it might.
for whatever you were guilty of, and then you get reincarnated.
I get right. Yeah, I guess. Yeah, you just come back in the world to come.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Because Orthodox Jews do believe in that, don't they? They believe in
Right. Yeah.
reincarnation.
Yeah.
So it still makes sense, doesn't it?
Yeah. Sure. I mean, they think if you're well, they think if you're a Jew and you break Shabbos, they think you're gonna come back as a goy. Like they
Well,
consider it like.
maybe it's not so bad coming back as a goy. I
Well,
mean, they have
yeah,
to
you
think.
try to convert
I
you.
mean, it's like Jews and Catholics. They have to think that they're better because otherwise, why would they go the extra mile? Because Catholic masses are longer than Protestant, church services, and Jewish restrictions are more restrictive than the other ones, and the
That's
death
so
penalty.
funny you say that because it's so funny you say that. It was a Jew I was talking to once for the high holidays, Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur, and Ashkenazim Jews. In Sephardic Jews, they have different ways of praying. So Rosh
Hmm.
Hashanah was always longer for Sephardic Jews than Ashkenazim Jews, and Yom Kippur was always longer for Ashkenazim, but shorter for Sephardic. So there was a Jew that was neither Ashkenazic or Sephardic, and he said that he only went to the minions that were longer. So he went to the Sephardic Rosh Hashanah, and he went to the Ashkenazim Yom Kippur, just so he didn't have to be at shul for an hour. He got an hour. He was out earlier for an hour. I'm like, oh my God, this is what they think. This is how people think, Claire. They think they think, well, at least I celebrated the high holidays, but I went to the shorter one or the longer one because I'm a better person or worse person. I mean, this is silliness. I mean, this is what we're dealing with, Claire. I mean, is this really how people live? And they do.
So sorry,
They
I
do
didn't
live
understand
like
what
this.
you were.
It's
I didn't
crazy,
understand
Claire.
what
It's
you were saying.
crazy.
You're saying he chose the longer one because it was more meritorious. Was that what you were saying?
Yeah, that's what he was basically. Yeah, basically, he was saying that he went to the longer one just so he could, like, I
As a
don't know.
penance.
It's a penance or reward from God or something. It's like, oh my God.
Uh,
It's like,
uh, because he's sort of seeing as a kind of the earning of brownie points.
right. It's like, yeah, you're brown nosing Hashem. Yeah, I'm God's teacher's pet or something.
Yeah, and I mean, it's like some sort of video game, right? You find
Right.
a
I put on
treasure,
hard
so many
difficulty.
coins.
Yeah, I want hard difficulty on the levels, so I'm going to go to Ashkenazim today. I want the easy level, so I go to the, I don't know, the Reform shul. It's like, okay, like,
But the
all right, whatever
heretics,
floats. It's whatever floats your boat, I guess.
yeah, yeah. But don't Orthodox Jews consider Reformed Jews to be heretics?
Oh, sure, but they were Jews that would. What's so funny? They were Jews that were reformed, and they still came to Chabad because for food, or they came because they liked the rabbi, or their buddy goes there to pray, so they want to say hello, and there'd be it was always um, a mishmash of people. Every week it would have been different. Every week changed. You had new
Mhm.
people, old people. People would change. You would see someone for 2 weeks every day, and then never see them again for a year because they go to a
Mhm.
different show. They had, it was weird how it was. Like I said, Claire, very cliquish.
Mhm.
It was weird. Yeah, so
Mhm.
I didn't quite get it. I guess I'll never get it. I mean, like Pigger says, I'm just a fake anyway, so I'll never understand. I was in it for God, not really in it for anything else. But again, according to, I guess that means I'm fake. Believing in God is makes you fake. So, oh, anyway.
Mhm. Mhm.
Oh,
Gosh. Yeah.
so Claire, let me ask you a question, Claire.
Mhm.
Have you ever have you ever been religious?
No, no, I haven't. There's no sort of form of religious observance that I actually observed. No.
Your mother and father were what, the run of the mill, like everyday Malaysian non-believers, Buddhists or something?
Yeah, yeah, they were Buddhists. They would, do their thing at the right time of the year, whatever it was. But it would be, I guess for show, or sometimes, genuine. But it's a lot of things we do because other people do it because it's that time of the year or whatever. But no, I've never been religious. I
Mm.
guess what I do is just focus on the principles and apply them every time I see a situation that requires their application. And I you might call that a
So
kind of
you
religiosity.
so you okay, I'll ask you that. Well, I was gonna, okay, well, hold on a second. Let me put a pin in that, what you just said. Get back to the what I was asking. So did you ever try, like, hey, maybe I'll give going to church once a week a try, going to mosque once a week a try? Have you ever done that, or
I,
you
I,
never
I've, I've
really had it?
visited I visited places of religious worship, but never in a kind of consistent way. Um, but
That's interesting.
I guess I do it out of cultural interest rather than the desire to be religious.
So you
Uh,
think that just that religion has a use and a practical application? There's things that happen in our life that need answers, and basically religion can just is a source for those answers, and you try to use secular Koranism as a way to implement it, basically as a tool or resource.
well, okay, I see morality as divided between public morality and private morality. So public morality would be reinforced by law, and and Islam is quite logical about it. It's just basically saying, if you're Muslim, then you should want to apply Sharia because it's the book that you're supposed to believe in, and so it makes perfect sense, even though people don't like the logic of it. And then the private morality is you know what you your relationship with God, I guess, how much you pray, all the things that, you don't think anybody would know, but God would if he exists, and how,
Right, yeah.
that
Yeah,
sort of
it's
thing.
like in Judaism. In Judaism, we have something called mishpat, laws, Torah laws that are between people, man and man, and then you have hakim, which are commandments that are you can never really know why we do it, or any reason why behind it, like not mixing fibers or not eating a pig
Hmm.
would be hakim. Like, why does God
Yeah,
command us not to eat pig? It's just you take it on religious faith. There's no answer for it,
yeah,
but you do it. And then there's
yeah.
laws like don't murder,
Hmm.
which you can deduce reason, why you wouldn't kill someone, because it makes pain, and it makes someone cry, and you don't want to make someone cry, and
And you would
is
not like it done to yourself.
right. So Judaism separates the commandments two ways. Mishpatim, commandments that we can understand, and it's man and man, and then hakim, which you can never know the answer because it's between you and God. So it's kind of like what you're saying is there are commandments that are public. Don't spit in public. Don't chew gum and spit gum out in the street, because you're gonna, back in there used to be a law like that in the 50s, where if you spit your gum out, you get slapped in the face, and put in jail for a week, because there's a way you act in public. We don't do that
Hmm.
anymore. People can just act like assholes in public. But that's what you're basically saying. Hey, if you're gonna be in public, if you're gonna chew gum and spit it out, do it at your house. That you don't act like that in the public. I like that. I dig that. I like that.
Yeah.
But no one can really judge you for these things, right? I mean, how long is it? How black is your hat? I mean, what does that mean? Anything to anyone, right? My yarmulke is the size of a cowboy hat. I guess I'm a big righteous guy, right? No, you're just an asshole with a big yarmulke. It doesn't make you better than anyone, right? So that's what you're saying. How your private life, what you do is between you and God, and too many people take that, and they cross boundaries. They like crossing the boundaries, and let's put the boundaries back in place. I dig it.
Hmm. Hmm.
Sorry, I didn't mean to go on a rant.
Yeah. Yeah.
But that
So.
was my, it's like that when I was going to shul for 7 years straight, 8 years, or how long I was doing. It's like I was trying to learn answers, and I was trying to get, ask questions and get answers, and it's like the only thing they really cared about was, nonsensical things. They really didn't care about Torah. They didn't really care about Hashem. They would care, they cared about things like, uh, you know, I remember something being, what was, remember there was a problem once at shul, because what was it? Someone brought one of the guests for a bar mitzvah brought a bottle of wine in his car on Shabbos, I think it was, right? And he I guess you're not supposed to carry on Shabbos, right? You're not supposed to carry on Shabbos. And
Mhm.
you're not supposed to drive on Shabbos, right? So this prick, right? One of the guys, he drove on Shabbos with a bottle of wine and he brought it to shul, and it was this biggest. I couldn't you couldn't imagine the biggest fight over the wine.
Mhm.
Oh, who's going to drink it? You can't drink it. You're not allowed to have it. So some of the people that didn't care were drinking it, right? They opened it up and they
Mhm.
were drinking it, and I guess someone that was religious and they didn't know and they had a sip of the wine. Now they're it's a big brouhaha. This is what was the big deal at the shul. I mean, these were the hard hitting questions, shul, Claire, at the shul. This is like an
Mhm.
everyday occurrence. I mean, this is, we're not talking about like curing cancer or like, how are we going to get to the moon and colonize it. These people were worried about the fucking wine being carried on. You know what I'm, you know what I'm saying, Claire? You know what I'm saying, Claire? You
I
know what
think
I'm getting?
so.
It's like this is the trivial stuff that you're worried about. This is what
Mhm.
we're worried about. The guy carried a bottle of wine.
Mhm.
It's like out of everything that's happening in the world, I was there to, get right with God. I want to make myself better, grow as a person. It doesn't happen overnight. Yeah, the guy carried wine. You're not supposed to do it, but you're gonna crucify the guy. I mean, you're gonna, it's like, come on. It's like he doesn't believe anyway. So why does it matter? But this is what we had to deal with, and I put up. This is the type of stuff I put up with. It's like, but you can't talk to the guy. Like if God forbid I had some of that wine. John, I thought you were sincere. I thought you were a real Jew. But this is the person behind my back home, spitting on me and call me a fake Jew, and then being outraged if I would have the wine. So why does it matter? I thought I was a fake Jew anyway, so why can't I have a wine as a fake Jew? But you're supposed to be converted. It's like fake outrage. It's like
Mhm.
damned if you do, damned if you don't. Games, game playing and manipulation and gaslighting and this is the typical day.
Yeah.
Typical
Mhm.
day.
Mhm.
So what I'm saying, Claire, is good that you never got into it. You probably
Oh
you're
yeah.
probably better off. You're probably more sane, and you can rationalize it better from being on the outside. You're from the outside looking in, and you're
I was
trying to
just
pick
listening
apart.
to Rabbi video, so maybe that was enough to remind me of the principles and the.
But it's interesting how you're able to break it down on a philosophical level from the outside in, right? You're like on the outside trying to put the pieces together in a sensible way. Isn't that, I mean, wouldn't that be a correct way of putting it, Claire?
Well, yes, I'm saying, the system. This is their system. It seems to be internally coherent because they have an explanation, like, this happened because we sinned, and we know it's a sin because it says so in the book, and we would expect God to punish us if we have sinned, so better not do it again. It all makes sense.
Yeah, but I get what you're saying, but don't you want to break it down and have a universal system that where it's applied with equal weights and measures for all people? Whether you're religious or non-religious, whether you believe in Sharia or not, you have an umbrella, secular Koranism, the
Oh
umbrella
yeah,
that
yeah,
holds it
yeah.
all together.
Yes, I
Go
mean,
ahead.
that would be the purpose of having this universal minimum standard. But I thought you meant some spiritual thing that um
Right, but I
but
mean, well,
I
the
guess I couldn't
spiritual
answer.
thing. I mean, you can't really quantify it anyway, right? I mean, spiritual. It's like trying to explain to me the shade of blue. I mean, unless you have my eyes, I can't explain to you the shade of blue I'm seeing, right? It's just it's a
Mhm.
it's a it's a thing that cannot be explained. I mean, I know what blue is, I know what red is, but I can't explain to you the shade, right? It's my personal experience. So religion and spirituality is a personal experience, so you can't regulate it. How can you
Mm.
regulate someone's spirituality? You can't, but you can at least regulate someone's behavior, right? And that's what
Yeah, but
secular Koranism.
yes.
No,
What
go
were you
ahead. What
saying
were you gonna
about it?
say?
I, um, I wanted you to finish your sentence about
Well,
secular
I feel like I
Koranism.
keep cutting you off every time you speak, so I apologize.
Um,
No, you would just it's just what you're getting at is very. I think it's a pretty interest. There are things that are objective in the world. There are
well,
few,
it's
but
necessary for it to be objective, or people will just have different views and argue over it, right?
no, but there
You
are
know.
things that are objective, right? There are things that we can
Mm,
quantify and put on paper, and we can make sense of it as human beings, as limited as we are. And then there's a whole spectrum of things that are subjective as human beings with feelings and thoughts and personalities and whatever you want to label it as, which is probably 95% of our experience is subjective, right? And so
mhm,
wouldn't it be better off to have a system where people's subjective opinions and views on life are protected, right? Like you're saying, there's no compulsory in religion, and secular Koranism is going to protect people that have different opinions and voices. But there are things that are private, and that there are things that are public, and that we can
mhm,
objectively quantify that. We can say, hey,
mm,
there's an objective reality to life, and you can't you can't act like a whore because it's going to it's going to make society fall apart. And we can quantify it, and we can put it on paper, and we can show you because we
mm,
have the
mm,
statistics. We have the statistics to back it up and show you. That's
mhm,
basically what you're saying, right? At the end of the
mm.
day.
Yeah, you want to be able to prove that what God says is a sin is actually not good for you, because if you do it, bad stuff will happen. Whether God exists or not, but obviously it's not a good idea to do these things. I guess that's kind of what I'm trying to demonstrate.
I think you're doing a pretty good job. I mean, I'm at the end of the day, I'm not trying to brown nose you to be the God's teacher's pet that we were just talking about, but I'm just saying,
It's nice to hear.
yeah, I'm just saying, and you're doing it from an outsider perspective is really, it's interesting how you're able to do it because you're not like, you're not from someone that's from. I would, I guess logically is what I'm saying is that it would make sense for you have been a devout Muslim and have lived the life of that to be able to quantify it, but you're able to do without living it. Does that make sense?
It might be just because of my legal training, because the lots of systems of rules that a lawyer is supposed to know about in order to work within that system, and promote his client's interest, and tell the client to do something to get this result and do another. It's that kind of idea, I guess. So,
Yeah.
and
No, yeah,
it,
yeah.
it seems to work. I mean, it seems. I mean, the story makes sense, even though God's existence, is in doubt. Because I mean, the objective reasons not to commit sexual immorality, not to steal property, not to kill people. You know.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it seems like people get lost. Uh, what's this old saying? You can't see the forest for the trees, or whatever the saying is.
Oh yes, and
They
the
get,
wood for the trees. Yes, yes.
yeah, they get lost. They can't see the bigger picture, and it's unfortunate. A lot of people, I don't know. I guess it's not. I guess it's not. We like Pigger says we don't have the IQ for it. I guess, but um,
Mhm,
no, I'm keep jabbing at him, but I apologize. If Aaron, if you're still watching, we love you. It's just
mhm.
I don't know really know what to say. It's cool. I give you kudos. I give you credit that you're
Thank
able to
you,
break it down. You know.
thank you. Well, I've had fun doing it anyway, so it's
Now,
actually
how
quite
long
quite. How long?
how long
What?
have you been doing this YouTube thing?
I think I started in 2017, which is when I first talked to, I think, Mark Collett and E. Michael Jones. That was that was when I
And when before
started.
that, you were doing the blog.
Yeah,
Okay.
and
And how long
Twitter
have you
and
been doing the
Facebook.
blog for?
Um, I think it started in 2006 or something like that.
Oh, okay. Okay. Very good. Okay. Do you
Yeah,
think
it's
the
been a while.
blog was what did you think the online debate discussions that you have like here on YouTube are better or worse than the blog? You think the blog is better? The writing instead of speaking?
Well, it's
What?
quicker to absorb the ideas if you read it, if you bother to, if you concentrate, you can, understand it more quickly, and it's more searchable and everything. But I guess, some people just prefer to get their information through, entertainment and hear people talking. I don't know. I mean, I guess I just try a range of methods and, use different parts of your brain talking than when you are writing. I think more leeway is given to you when you're just yakking, I guess. So if you misspeak, people aren't going to go crazy,
Okay.
or they'll make allowances that you might have said yes when you meant no, or you used the wrong word or whatever.
Yeah, and I'm not the most elegant speaker, so I apologize if I mess up a few times. Mince my
Do
words. I
you, do you
try not
listen to
to.
your own streams? Do you listen to
I
your own
try not
streams?
to. I try not to.
Do you?
I,
I mean,
it's
I found it very difficult at first because, and then I discovered the double speed thing because it was driving me mad listening to my own voice at normal speed. And then, then I
Yeah,
discovered the double
I hate the
speed.
way I sound, so I try not to listen to anything I do. I rather listen to someone else.
Hmm.
That's why I subscribe to you. You know,
Oh, thanks.
and
But
sometimes you have
I can't.
interest. Sometimes
I hate the sound of my voice, and I can only listen to it at double speed.
right you have do have you do have interesting guests on, and uh, then once in a while you do have someone that's like, oh, really, it's like, all right, I guess, it is what it is. Claire wants to have this person on. I like that Muslim woman girl, Claire. What was her name? Claire. The one I
That woman.
spoke to. No, the one I spoke to.
Carol.
Carol. Yeah, she seems like a nice, reasonable person. Yeah. Um,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, she sounds a really, really nice woman. Um, but I guess what the stream was really complaining about these Muslims, not. I don't even want to say it again because I've been saying it so much.
Right, right. I
That
hear
they,
you. Beating
yeah,
a dead horse.
yes, and perhaps it is people just won't do it. They just want it to seem this sort of weak person's thing that um, you know I don't know. I mean, it's a system of rules that's supposed to solve problems, and I think making it sound like something that will solve your problems rather than give you more problems is a better idea, even though it might seem a bit daunting at first. That's all I'm trying to say, I guess.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I appreciate you having me on, Claire. I kind of just snuck in and bombarded your stream again for the second time, but I had some
Well, I'm
free
glad
time
you.
today, and I wanted.
Well, I'm glad you want to crash my streams because
So take care, Claire. I hope you have a wonderful night. It's probably what, 1 in the morning, 2 in the morning for you.
No, it's just before midnight, so it's not too
Oh,
late. So yeah,
so I'm gonna go have tea
all
and
righty,
dinner, as they say. So take it
okay.
easy, Claire, and have a good
You
rest of the night.
too. Thank you. Bye bye.